ESPN.com did their rankings on every NHL team going into next season, and I can't believe where they have the Canucks ranked. And we're going to go in depth and break down all the Canucks lines going into next season and how they got so much better. Before we get into this, I just want to give a shout out to everyone that is subscribed. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to go down and hit the subscribe button. We'll be all off season in the next season, giving you updates from around the Canucks. But with that, let's hop straight into the first topic today, which is Canucks drop in rankings. So we do see an article from ESPN Hockey, and they said they sent this out. It was a poll sent to all their reporters, editors, commentators, everyone in between, ranking the teams going in. The previously ranked for each team were for the final regular season edition. But looking at these rankings, it seems like the Canucks were really disrespected. You go into the first round of them, and you can see the top three being the Florida Panthers, the Edmonton Oilers, and the Dallas Stars. If you wanted to pause and read on what they had to say on each one of these rankings, you can as well. But with the two top teams making the Stanley Cup Finals, I can kind of understand, even though I don't want to say the Oilers should be there because I don't think they should be, but I can understand why people's on the hype. In between this, you have the Rangers, Avs, and Hurricanes, which are once again three good teams, but this is where things start to get a little disrespectful for the Canucks. You move into number 7, the Boston Bruins. You move down to number 8, who the Canucks did beat in the first round just last season. Yes, they added Stamkos. Yes, they added Marchessault, but they aren't as good as the Canucks in my opinion. And you move down to number 9, which is previously ranked number 4, the Vancouver Canucks. Now, Griffin, just looking at this, seeing the Canucks dropping all the way from 4 to 9, what's your initial thoughts on this?
Straight up disrespectful, honestly. I mean, seeing the Oilers up there, yeah, they made the Stanley Cup Finals, understandable, like you said. Dallas was the best team in the West last season. Statistically, they did have the better numbers, but people forget that Vancouver was the best team in hockey in the first half of the season last year. They just hit a bit of a rocky road as far as injuries and just unproductive players near the end of it. But Nashville, they did get better, but Carolina, they lost Jake Gensel. How are they ranked higher than the Canucks? Colorado Avalanche, they had some key losses as well. How are they ranked higher? Same with the Rangers. The Rangers had the President's Trophy curse. So how are they ranked higher when they just got destroyed in the playoffs by a better team? So I don't understand it. I can't fathom it. I don't know why the Canucks are ranked so low. Maybe they were overhyped last year and then they were doing the unexpected and they maybe overachieved. But because of these key losses, as far as Lindholm and Zadorov concerned, it seems like they almost forgot that they have other players that they signed. They made some great signings. They made some solid draft picks, and they're not going to be horrible going into next season like they seem to be projected in this ranking, where they're almost like borderline playoff team when a team like Boston, they only got Lindholm and Zadorov really as far as other guys. We poached 3 of their guys, so how are they ranked higher? I don't understand it. It's disrespectful completely to the Canucks, and I can't wait for them to just shut up the naysayers next season and prove everybody wrong.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is looking at this Canucks roster going into last season. We had Mikheyev, we had Kuzmenko. These two guys were in our top 6. Obviously, Kuzmenko did end up in the top 6 in the playoffs, but that's for a different day. But when you're looking at this Canucks team, they were a powerhouse coming out of the gates. This was before they acquired a guy like Nikita Zadorov, before they acquired someone like Elias Lindholm. They were the best team in hockey to start the season. Yes, you could say it was a complete hot start, but we've seen this team continue to dominate. Yes, injuries did kind of slow their season down, but having a 9 seems a little ridiculous in my eyes. This is a team that's got better. Yes, the Nashville Predators, like I said, did get better. Yes, the Bruins did add Zadorov and Lindholm, but these teams aren't better than the Canucks. You work your way up to the top. Yes, you can say the Florida Panthers, the reigning Stanley Cup champions. Yes, put them at number 1. They are currently the best team for a reason. You look at the Dallas Stars, like you said, that won the entire division or conference. But when you're looking through the standings of last year, the Canucks were one of the only few teams to have over 100 points. You can see that they were the top team in the Pacific. You can work your way down and see that they have 1 less points than the team that won the Stanley Cup. Yes, regular season doesn't matter once you get into the playoffs, but the biggest thing is this Canucks team is going to achieve so much more this season. The biggest thing with this is, yes, they lost some key pieces. Lindholm, Zadorov. You can look at Casey Smith as another key piece, but the management are going to continue looking for more pieces. And this kind of gets straight into the second topic on this team has improved. I mean, when you're looking at the forward line itself, I've talked about how we lost Lindholm, Zadorov, and if you want to look from the beginning, Mikheyev and Kuzmenko. But there's key pieces out of this team. You have Danton Hyman, Jake DeBrusk, Sherwood. All these guys are adding more to this team. Now, before we really dive into this, Griffin, what's your thoughts on these key pickups, and do you think it kind of makes this team a lot more competitive than last season?
I definitely think so. I think with these additions, I think they're going to be a bit more better as far as team chemistry goes. We see how that third line of Garland, Joshua, the two Batman and Robin players of this team, having Teddy Bluger in the middle, being a bit bigger. So he's going to hold it down in the center. So that's going to be a great line. And like we said last season, whenever whoever was on that Joshua and Garland line was at times the best line in hockey. So a lot of people might not remember that. So if you see those guys pop up as one of the best lines on this Canucks team, don't be surprised. And it would be nice to see other guys like I would love to see the Lotto line pop up a bit more during the season. We didn't see it too much as far as later on in the season in the postseason when they might have needed it, especially when you wanted to jumpstart Petey and get him going, especially going into this next season where he has that contract to live up to. So maybe reuniting the Lotto line a bit more frequently would be a very nice welcome sight to see. But again, I think they did absolutely get better in this offseason because of the additions that they made. They didn't purge a bunch of money for one guy. They went out and they got a bunch of skill guys, ones that are veterans, ones that have experience or have been to a bunch of teams. So they're going to have that team chemistry to bring to it and not mess around with too much.
And the biggest thing is we're going to kind of just break down what we would do with the lines going into next season. With this team, I think it's almost flawlessly done. Shout out to Daily Faceoffs, as they were the ones that did these projections. But the only change I would really make is putting Dent and Hyman down onto the second line, moving Höglander up. I think Höglander could do awesome with a guy like JT Miller and Brock Boeser. These are guys that are going to get anyone going. So having him up there, getting his confidence going early in the season, I think would be a key piece. Denton Hyman's a speedy winger that's active with his stick. He can still punch you goals. I believe he scored 16 for the Boston Bruins last year. So having two speedy wingers with Petey is ideal in the situation. Now, I'm sure me saying the word Petey, we're going to have everyone in these comments, especially the ones that are xenophobic, calling out and calling him down to the dirt. Petey is going to have a bounce back here. Yes, I understand a lot of people want to see Canadians on this team, but this is a team that has a history of Swedish players. The two greatest players who ever put the jersey on are from Sweden. So everyone down in the comments saying, hey, Petey's not good because he's Swedish, this player's not good because he's Swedish, give your head a shake. Just really look in the mirror. But let's get right back into this. The bottom six, I think, is completely awesome. Dakota Joshua, Garland's going to work with Teddy Bluger. We've seen it happen. And then last season, we've seen Pius Suter as a top line left wing going down to the fourth line, kind of anchoring that. But Griffin, looking at these lines, other than the Höglander and Heinen switch, would you really change anything else?
I don't think I would change too much. Like you said, it's almost flawlessly done. I think that's the right move to get Höglander going. And like you said, with Petey having two speedy wingers, maybe he gets going more. But you would like to have more physicality, I think, on that second line with Petey. So maybe you move a little bit around. But I would also, like I said earlier, like to see the Lotto line. I think that was a line that put up a lot of production during the regular season earlier in last season. And I think it's one that would be a nice welcome return for the Canucks and give them a nice jump start, especially with Petey and especially to continue JT Miller's just dominance on this Canucks team as well.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is when you're looking at the defense, and well, I think this improved a lot. Yes, you lose out on a guy like Sidorov, but you bring in a defensive defenseman in Derek Forbort. You're bringing in Vincent Desharnais, a guy that's a huge body that's going to play physically for you as well. We've seen how the Canucks management, we've seen Adam Foote really turn around Tyler Myers' game. So getting almost another Tyler Myers being the exact same size, I do see a lot of improvements coming from him, and I think these pairings look a lot better than last season's. Now, looking at the power play, this is where things get interesting. I would personally like to see Dakota Joshua on the second unit or on the first unit. This is a guy that scored 2 power play goals in the playoffs for the Canucks. We've seen him be a big body. He's a net front presence. And what's your thoughts on these power play lines as well? And is there anyone you'd like to see get on it?
I would love to see Joshua get in there just because, especially on that second power play unit where there's not a lot of big bodies there. So they have the speed with DeBrusk and Podkolzin and Höglander, and then you have Suter who can get out in front. But if you have Höglander and DeBrusk already, throw Joshua in there so you have that big body. If people forget, this is a guy who, if he hadn't gotten injured, would likely have finished at least top 5 in hits, maybe even on the top of the hit leaderboard. So you definitely want someone more physical in there on the power play where if someone tries to get loose on a shorthanded goal, like we saw Edmonton do to us time and time again in the postseason, you have a guy like Joshua who can just hold it down and stop them before they even get to the neutral zone.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. This Canucks team, and this is what led to us wanting to do this ESPN video, was the fact that this team has improved. You're looking at the forward group. They still haven't made ads in free agency. Yes, they obviously have, but they haven't made more ads. We haven't seen this team at trade deadline. This team is going to look so much better going into next season than they did the previous season. You can see the defensive pairings have got so much better. You have Quinn Hughes, the best goaltender, and yes, if you've seen the video yesterday, I did say he won the Vezina. I obviously meant to say he won the Norris, but we're seeing Quinn Hughes continue his dominance. We're seeing Hronek coming off an extension, looking to have a bounce back year, and I wouldn't even say bounce back. He had an incredible season. We're seeing all these Canucks players coming back, the new faces. This team is going to be a force to reckon with, and I think it's going to shock a lot of people. If you follow Jay Fresh on Twitter at all, he does a lot of advanced stats in the NHL. If you're looking at his graphs, he actually has the Canucks winning the Pacific Division and being one of the top teams in the NHL. Yes, number 9 is great out of 32, but I think this Canucks team's really going to surprise a lot more people than they're expecting. But what are you guys' thoughts on everything we talked about? Let us know down in the comments. But talking about comments, let's get in everyone's favorite topic, which is comments of the day. The comment of the day comes from Callum. He says, "You guys are one of the best birthday presents a hardcore Canucks fan like me could wish for." Thanks, Mark. Shout out to you, Callum. Happy birthday. If you guys haven't wished Callum a happy birthday, make sure to go down, wish him happy birthday in the comments. You could be featured on the next episode of Canucks Digest as comment of the day. And with that, if you guys enjoy this, leave a like, subscribe. We're trying to reach 4,000 by next Sunday. And we'll be back with maybe another video later on today. But I've been your host, Mark, with my co-host, Griffin. Take care.